this is our first, I guess, interview of this series, and we're interviewing Master Sergeant Mandrich, our new first sergeant. Hey, ma'am, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good. It's Monday. Monday seems to have come in strong this week, but we're making it through. So I guess initial introductions. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So as you said, I'm Master Sergeant Emily Mandrich. I'm the new first sergeant for the 94th. I'm a Cougar, and I'm excited. I even got a spoon on Friday, so I think that makes it absolutely official. I'm 30, 34 years old because I haven't gotten my birthday back. I'm a mom. I've got 4 kids, his, hers, ours. We've got 16-year-old, 14-year-old, 13-year-old, and an 8-year-old. My husband's active duty Navy. I'm a 1 in 4 Alpha by trade, and I've been a first sergeant for just about 4 years. And this is my 5th squadron, and hopefully my last squadron. So I got extended for about 1.5 years, and that should finish up my time here in the 94th unless something crazy happens. So I'm excited to be in the 94th. I've joked for most of my career that I hated the 94th, but it was all jealousy, and I begged to come to the 94th as a shirt, and I'm so excited that I'm here.
Well, we're excited you're here. At minimum, I am excited you're here, so I'm going to assume everyone is excited that you're here as well.
Good. You're speaking for the whole squadron. I appreciate it.
I am. I'm just going to speak for everybody. Can you tell me your favorite first sergeant story?
Okay, so there are so many. My favorite one, surprisingly, was when I was in security forces in Korea, and I say my favorite just because the real ridiculous ones always seem sad at the end, so I don't like to share. I get real excited to share them, and then when I share them, they end up sad. I would say my favorite first sergeant story was so in security forces, it was really cool because I don't know if it was good for them or not for the airmen, but an airman never walked into my office without their supervisor and flight chief in tow. And generally that meant that the whole leadership chain exhausted all resources and opportunities to fix the problem before it got to me. But there was this one airman that was always in my office by himself. And he came in, and he had a supervisor that needed some help, and he used to just tell him, just go to the shirt, just go to the shirt. So he came in my office one day super freaked out, super stressed, and I was like, hey, airman, whatever your name is, what's the problem? And he's like, I have he had something the next day, and he had a blues inspection the next day, and he didn't have his blues. And I said, okay, so what do you want me to help you with? He's like, well, I dropped them off at the cleaners about 3 months ago, and they lost them. And I said, okay, what do you want me to help you with? And he's like, well, when I went to ask them where they were, they said they didn't have them. And I said, when you gave them their receipt or your receipt, what did they say? And he said, well, I didn't have my receipt. And I said, okay. He goes, and they flipped through their book, and they had no record of me dropping my uniform off at the cleaners. I said, so what did your supervisor say when you talked to your supervisor? He said you would fix it and that you would get me my blues. And I said, that's probably not going to happen. What exactly do you want me to do here? And he's like, I need some blues by my inspection tomorrow. I said, well, did you go by the airman's attic and check it out? And he goes, sure. You know what they do? If you don't pick them up in time, they just send them to Lackland and they sell them to the new airmen. And I said, I don't really think that's what happens to them, but okay, if that's what you're thinking. I said, all right, well, let's figure out what you need. Like, what did you drop off at the cleaners that we got to try and find for you? And he said, my blue shirt and my top piece. And I said, your what? And he said, my blue shirt and my top piece. And I'm like staring at him. He's staring at me. Like, neither of us are speaking the same language. And I said, by top piece, do you mean your service coat? He goes, yeah. The top piece. And like that to me is the funniest story with an airman, because this amazing airman was walking around referring to his blue shirt and his top piece. So he didn't want to go to the airman's attic, so he went instead to clothing sales, bought a brand new top piece, had stripes sewn on it that day in time for his blues inspection the next day. And then when he was cleaning his room, he found the receipt, brought it to the cleaners. They found his blues. And then like a month later, on the Kunsan Facebook page where people sell stuff and like, buy stuff, he put this brand new top piece with brand new stripes on it up for sale for full price, and wanted to sell it for what he paid for it. In the comments, like the poor guy in the comments that he was a mess. Like, he was one of my favorite airmen. He just could not get his stuff together. Like, I only ever saw him walking around in a black A shirt with big old headphones on and Air Force PT shorts until the day apparently that he showed up for his PT test in all civilian clothes.
Oh no.
I had never seen this kid in like a full set of civilian clothes except when he had to go to an appointment. So yeah, we got him straightened out. He's probably doing great things now for security forces somewhere.
Probably.
The 2 blue shirts and my top piece.
Just calling it that. It's my top piece now.
It's your top piece, yeah.
Oh, I had no idea where that was going. Like, was it the shoulder bars, your hat? What are we talking about here?
I just stared at him, and then after he's like, I was like, your service coat? He was like, yeah, like duh. Like, what were you thinking, you idiot first sergeant? My top piece.
All right. Well, I never would have guessed that's what it was.
That's what it's called now.
It is. It is. Can you tell me about your favorite book and how it influenced you?
So I don't read. This came out in another.
I know there's one book that you've read, because I know you can tell me what house you belong to.
Yeah. So so I used to read when I was a kid, probably because Audible wasn't a thing. And I'm like most things in life, if I'm not interested in the first couple pages, then I'm done. And one book that absolutely drew me in from the start was Harry Potter. I was, I think, 12 when it was really popular, and I babysat for a couple of kids. And I'm thinking now that I was 12 and trusted to babysit other children really concerns me, but it was a different world back then. I actually started with book 2 because one of the kids I was babysitting was reading book 1, so I couldn't have it. So I borrowed book 2, and then the rest is history. I remember because the final book came out long after that when I was in the Air Force and I was home on leave, and I I went with everybody else. It was the only time I went somewhere like at a weird time and waited in line for something, and I waited in line to buy the last book. Read it, covered it, like read it, started reading it on the plane, and then didn't stop reading it until I was done. And I was sitting, Indian style on my childhood floor in my, my bedroom I grew up in, just like bawling like a crazy person, reading that. And which is oddly where I was sitting when I read The Outsiders and did the same thing and ugly cried reading that. But I think so. The read, listen to, I think Dare to Lead by Brene Brown is probably one of the most powerful books that I've read in my adult life that I can remember. And I think it's because, we all kind of dig into leadership books based on, or self-help books or whatever other books to make you or yourself or the people around you better. And it was the first book where I felt I walked away from it with having learned something about myself, thinking that I knew going into it. I know what empathy is. I know what being vulnerable is. I know how to lead people. I'm a first sergeant. Come on, man. Now, I walked away from that book with a completely different view of how to lead people, how to be empathetic, how to be vulnerable. And yeah, I think that one is probably the most influential book that I've listened to because I don't read.
So, I don't know if this would be ironically, but that is also my favorite book. Like I think I have 6 copies of it, and every time someone's like, what should I read? I just throw the book at them.
Absolutely.
I'm like, to Audible because she narrates it. And
yes.
It's fabulous.
Yep. Yeah. And I think the thing with it is, and Chief Wright mentions this, that he rarely reads a book in its entirety, that he kind of like jumps into certain chapters. And that's how I approach leadership and management and, even emotional intelligence, all the books that are like the nonfiction
Yeah.
get your life together books. I do that. I'll flip through certain chapters that I think I need to dig into. But that one I started from the beginning, and I would sit in my car because I would listen to it on my way to and from work. And I would sit in my car in the parking lot and just keep listening because I didn't want to stop. Because I think the most powerful thing, like you said, you hand it over to everybody, is there isn't a certain level that it applies to, and there isn't a certain, you know, career, there isn't a certain demographic. Like everyone, just humans in general, can get something from it. And she breaks it down in such a way that seems so obvious that after you're done reading it or listening to it, you're like, well, duh. Like, why didn't it make so much sense?
Why haven't I been doing this for years?
Yeah, why is this so obvious? But yeah, I really liked that. Just because usually leadership books I read, I have a hard time applying it to the military because then it's
Right.
always like, well, I can't do that. I can't just quit my job. So, but that one's a good one, I think, just for life in general. And she's amazing. Like, I like all her stuff.
She is, and I loved in Dare to Lead that it had almost an entire chapter dedicated to the Air Force, right? Like, we just got
Yes.
done with the Ace Bridge chats, and when we did it for our flight, I pulled that whole chapter out, and I was like, let's talk about loneliness and connection and all of these things, right? Like, I've never met Colonel Halfhill, but if I did meet her, I think I'd be starstruck for all the
Yeah.
work she's doing. From that book is the only reason I knew about her.
Yeah, we could sit and talk about it for hours because I think that that boils down, like, you think about the problems that we're currently facing, and I think it all comes down to not being able to properly communicate because of, the defenses we put up or the armor that we put up.
Right.
And then also, when we talk about the stuff that's really hurting our airmen, it's people not being treated like people and like humans and not caring for each other. And when you look at someone and you care about them, you see them as a human, you know that you're not infallible, then all that other stuff seems to just like seem insane. Like, why would I discriminate against someone based on the color of their skin? It just seems to like make so much sense. So yeah, I think it's applicable and just makes you a better human. And really, I think we just need to be better humans.
Absolutely. So can you tell me about your passions? What are you passionate about?
Ugh. So
So,
when I refer to what I do for a living, both as a 1 in 4 and as a first sergeant, I always say that I'm like a jack of all trades, master of none. I feel the same way about passions. Like, there's not one thing I at any given time I'm super passionate about aside from my family. Like, I absolutely love my children. I love my husband. I'm real close to my sisters and my mom, so family means a whole lot to me. But like, I don't have a thing. I have a thing at like 6 to 9 months at a time. Like, I have a strain. And when you and I were talking about this, when I was talking about ADD, ADD for me isn't just hyper focused with tasks; it's hyper focused in life. Like, I was going to become a amateur curler when I was locked in my house during Snowmageddon and was watching the Olympics, and I like did all the research. So I get passionate about stuff for like 6 to 9 months before something else draws my attention. But I think the one thing that I'm consistently passionate about is caring about people. Like, I think, although it's not, it seems contradictory sometimes to how I feel about my emotions and my personality because I'm very introverted. I'm kind of robotic, like typical Intel person from that aspect. But I really am passionate about taking care of people, and I think everyone deserves someone that's supporting them. And that's something that my ADD hasn't bored me of yet, and that's just and all people. Like, I don't have a particular, like, not just an airman. If someone needs help, like, I feel like I'm a passionate helper. There we go.
all right.
That's a good
I
one.
like that. So you have done interviews like this in your previous squadron, and I really enjoyed seeing those. So I pulled one question from one of those interviews and another one, right?
Yay.
And we can pretend like this is going to give me some deep, insightful view into
Right.
you, but I just want to hear the answers. If you could build a playground for adults, what would it look like?
Oh, there'd be lots of liquor. I think I know which interview you're talking about, and
Yeah.
in reference to that one, it was like waterfalls of wine, which I'm not particularly fond of. I like scotch, I like whiskey, and I like beer. So I think a playground for adults would be um, I I this is I'm gonna like totally fly my nerd flag and reference Harry Potter and say that I wish it was somehow like a room of requirement.
Yes.
So I think that the perfect adult playground would be whatever that adult wants or needs in the moment that they walk into it. So like there are times where I want a warehouse full of trampolines or foam pits, but at the same time I want like a beach chair and an
Yep.
umbrella drink and no weather hotter than 82 degrees because I don't like hot weather. But yeah, that's what I would say. That an adult playground, if I could imagine it, it would be everything. Uh, whatever you need at the time. Masseuse, quiet, tranquil, you know, waterfall scenes or like crazy party trampoline park, like everything.
Yeah. All in one.
Yes.
I like that. If you could throw a parade of any caliber without any restrictions in your office, what kind of parade would you throw?
Oh, that's a tough one because my office is not very big.
So we can imagine any office, right? I would love to do like a motorized scooter one through the basement
Ooh,
because I really, right after they've buffed the floors
so
too,
much fun.
it's a
Uh,
career goal to drift one of those through the basement.
We gotta go take a trip to Kunsan together because all of they have like little moped gangs all over the place. So we could totally do that. They've got like matching vests and stuff too. It's hilarious. I would say, and this is probably kind of lame, I have a deep seated love for like drum corps. And I would just want like or really like flamboyant marching bands.
Okay.
So I was a band nerd growing up, and our school, I played percussion and marching band. And our school was super lame. We didn't high step. We didn't have any flair. It was just boring, like rudimentary marching. It was very technical. Like our band leader was very technical, and we did all these complicated moves. But the next high school over had fun, and they played like hit songs and they were high stepping and they were dancing. I'm completely incapable of doing that. I have no rhythm, but that's what I would want. I would just want like amazing marching bands like
All right.
parading through my office.
I like that. I'm sure in our career field we can find enough people
We
to make
probably
a marching band.
oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. Probably just within our unit we could have a full marching band.
Yeah, and I could think of a couple people in the 34th that apparently can play. There's someone that can play not that this is in a marching band, but can play a ukulele while on a unicycle. So you're right, there are hidden talents all
There
throughout
are.
this wing. 94th IS, the marching Cougars.
Yes. I like it. It's got to be a thing now.
I'll play drums.
Okay. I can't play anything, but I can wear the gloves.
There you go. Yeah, you can be the band major.
There we
You're
go.
leading the show. Yeah, we'll get you a big baton and
Yeah.
a
So I
hat
was
with a
a
feather.
theater nerd, so I was there when band was there, but I couldn't
Yes.
go.
I did a little bit of that too. I just can't sing. So spring musical was not. I was always stuck in the chorus.
um, so what is your favorite and least favorite thing about our new normal?
uh my least favorite is getting to be around people. So I think that applied before I joined the unit, and even more. I'm super feeling it coming into the unit. So for anyone new to a unit, whether you're a brand new airman or the squadron commander, it's always kind of intimidating because the machine keeps moving whether you're there or not. So it's not like you start in a squadron and everybody stops what they're doing and starts you over from square one. So it's like you jump on a merry-go-round that's already going. Um, so it's tough anyway. The first couple months in a unit, I always feel like totally chaotic and lost and confused. What makes that better for me or easier for me is getting out and getting to meet the airmen that I'm serving and putting faces to names and getting to know personalities and understand. So that way, if I get a phone call about someone, it's not another name on an alpha roster, it's a person. So my least favorite thing is not being able to do that. So the boss and I have gone up to the floor. We came around your workspaces and got to see some of your folks, but as you know, not everyone's there. So it's going to take a while. My most favorite thing, I will say, oddly enough, is the creative ways in which we are finding those social connections. So these interviews, for instance, all the cool Zoom things that Zoom or virtual things that people are doing across the wing, I think is awesome. I think in normal, what our old normal used to be, it was easy to go a week or two with a flight chief or a supervisor not seeing or talking to their troops. And now with forced accountability, you're talking to them every day, whether you like it or not. And I think, although we're physically distanced from each other, that we found different and unique ways to connect with each other, and not surrounding work. So that's the other beauty is, the majority of our airmen can't do their job from home. So you're finding different ways to connect, and it's not always sitting and talking about work, which I think feeds most people's soul. Even introverts, feeds your soul when you're interacting with people and it's not just about work all the time. So that's probably the positive. That, and I think we got rid of a lot of useless stuff that we're hopefully not going to start doing again eventually.
I keep filling out that best practices sheet.
Yes.
Keep
Yeah.
this.
Don't ever do this again.
Don't bring this back.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think those are all the pre-questions I had ready for you.
Ooh.
Is there anything else we didn't touch on?
No, I think that's good. I don't like being asked questions.
No? Well, okay. So thanks for doing this with me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to see the continuation of this series here in the 94th.
So am I. So I do have some parting words, not to answer any questions, but just a few things for anyone that's watching and listening. One, like I said, I'm super excited to be the shirt for the 94th, and you can all help me get to know you better by volunteering to be interviewed, which was the whole idea behind starting this in my other squadron anyway. And then I'm going to give a plug for Shirt Lunch. Not that I don't love hanging out with just Sergeant Huguenin, Sergeant Cardinal, and Airman Reynolds. I do. But I just wanted to clear the air in case people weren't sure what First Sergeant Lunch is. So it's just an hour on Zoom, and like I said, it's another way to connect with airmen, meet people from other flights, get to know me. I can get to know you, and there's no agenda. It's not very professional. It's really just kind of laid back. I think the response that Sergeant Miller gave me after the first one was, "Wow, that was really laid back." Because that's kind of how I am most of the time, unless you give me a reason not to be. I'm a pretty open book and a pretty laid back person. So if you're not busy between 11 and 12 on Wednesdays, Zoom in to Shirt Lunch, and we just chat about weird things, right?
Yeah.
You can in? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like this.
What's your Harry Potter house? And trying to determine who's actually a Hufflepuff versus.
It's like it's the secret insult of Harry Potter nerds. I did let the boss know that we all think Ravenclaw, and I think that's probably pretty spot on for her. So
Okay. She's getting the test. She's old enough.
She started reading the book. So she's been reading it to her son, William, who's 4. So it's going to take a bit of time because obviously, as a mom, the attention span of a 4-year-old is not quite the same as, so she's reading it little by little. But Chief made a Voldemort reference the other day and she got it. So we're on our way. We're getting there. And eventually, she'll know which house she's in and we'll make her take the test.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Sergeant Mandrich. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.